December 14th, 1799. You are lying in bed, throat swollen shut, chills running through you, barely able to breathe. And the men standing over you, the best doctors in America, believe they know exactly what to do. They open a vein in your arm, then another, then another. Over the next 10 hours, they will drain nearly half the blood in your body. You are George Washington, and the men trying to save your life are about to be the reason you die. This wasn't malpractice. This was standard medical procedure. His doctors kept detailed notes. Nearly 3.75 liters of blood drained from a dying man on purpose, believing it would help. Washington was dead by the next evening. His skin turned pale, then gray, as his doctors kept doing exactly what they'd been trained to do. And the men who did this, they weren't quacks. They were the most respected physicians in the country. So why would trained doctors do this? Why would anyone believe draining someone's blood makes them healthier? Buckle up, because this is only the beginning. Bloodletting is just one entry on a very, very long and disturbing list. Doctors have drilled into skulls. Doctors have poisoned patients with metal. Doctors have blistered people's skin on purpose. Doctors have done things to human bodies that would get them arrested today, all while being completely convinced they were curing you. Real talk. I know half of you won't make it to the end, and I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so subscribe now so you don't miss the weirdest stuff history has to offer. To understand how the doctors landed on the idea of literally draining your body dry, we have to rewind about 2,000 years to ancient Greece. Physicians there believed the body was made of 4 fluids, or humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Too much of one, they thought, and you got sick. Historian Vivian Nutten has written about just how deeply this idea shaped medicine for centuries. It wasn't some fringe theory. It became the default explanation for basically everything. Fevers, headaches, bad moods, even your personality was blamed on which humor supposedly ran your body. Too much black bile, and you were just doomed to be gloomy forever, apparently. And if you had too much blood, the fix seemed obvious. Cut you open and let some out. Simple logic. Wildly, catastrophically wrong logic, but simple. By the medieval period, bloodletting wasn't just accepted. It was scheduled. Physicians used actual bleeding calendars matched to the zodiac to decide the correct day to cut a vein. Barbers doubled as surgeons because apparently why not combine a haircut with minor surgery? That red and white striped pole outside old barbershops, that's not decoration, that's blood and bandages. And when a blade felt too aggressive, doctors reached for something gentler. Leeches, dozens of them, placed directly on the skin to do the draining slowly. By the time bloodletting reached Washington's bedside in 1799, it had survived nearly 2,000 years of being confidently, repeatedly wrong. Medical historian David Morenz, who later reviewed Washington's case in detail, argued the bleeding likely accelerated his death rather than prevented it. 2 millennia of tradition, and it still killed one of the most powerful men in the world. But here's the thing. Bloodletting wasn't even the worst idea doctors had, because before doctors were opening veins, some were opening skulls. Trepanning, drilling, or scraping a hole directly into a living person's head is one of the oldest known surgical practices on Earth. And it's not rare. Archaeologists working in Peru alone have uncovered hundreds of trepanned skulls, some dating back over 1,000 years. And here's the part that gets me every time. Many of them show bone regrowth around the hole. That means the patient didn't just survive the surgery. Some skulls show signs of the procedure being done on the same person multiple times, years apart. Some researchers estimate survival rates over 50% for Stone Age brain surgery with zero anesthesia. Why would anyone do this? The belief, again and again across completely unrelated cultures, was that something bad was trapped inside the head. Pressure, evil spirits, bad blood. Take your pick. And the only way out was through a hole in the skull. Historian Roy Porter, who spent his career documenting the strange logic of pre-modern medicine, pointed out that this exact idea, something harmful trapped inside the body that needs a way out, shows up over and over in cultures that never once spoke to each other. The same wrong idea, invented independently again and again. And it wasn't just holes. If you couldn't drill it out, you could try to draw it out instead. Blistering was standard treatment for centuries. Doctors applied caustic substances or burning hot cups directly to the skin, deliberately raising painful blisters, convinced that whatever illness lived inside you would rise to the surface and escape through the wound. Fevers, infections, even mental illness, all treated with intentional burns. Which brings us to maybe the darkest chapter of all: mercury. By the 16th century, syphilis was spreading through Europe, and doctors needed an answer. Their solution? Mercury. Rubbed on the skin, injected, even inhaled as vapor. Patients underwent weeks of treatment that made them drool uncontrollably, lose their teeth, and in bad cases, lose their minds entirely from the poisoning. There was a grim saying that circulated at the time: a night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury. The cure for the disease was, quite literally, poisoning yourself slowly instead. There was actually a competing treatment, a wood shipped from the Caribbean called guayacum, marketed as a miracle cure. It didn't work either, but it made the merchants importing it extremely rich, which might explain why it stayed popular far longer than it should have. And doctors kept doing it for centuries. Because symptoms would sometimes briefly improve, mercury does suppress some visible signs right before the poisoning caught up with the patient. Doctors mistook temporary relief for a cure. Thousands paid for that mistake with their sanity, their teeth, sometimes their lives. Honestly, if there's one through line across every single one of these, it's this: doctors were never lying to you. They believed every word of it, which is almost scarier than if they'd been faking it the whole time. And before you get too smug about how far we've come, ask yourself this: detox teas, juice cleanses, letting toxins out through a $40 foot patch, that exact same core idea, something bad trapped inside you, remove it and you're healed, never actually left. We just don't reach for the knife, or the drill, or the mercury bottle anymore. Mostly. That's part one of most disturbing medical cures in history. This channel exists because the textbook version of the past always skips the part where doctors were, frankly, guessing. If your stomach turned even once during this video, tell me which cure disturbed you most in the comments, because part 2 is coming and it gets worse. And if you know someone who still swears by a detox tea, this is the video to send them.